स्टैट 301 शॉर्ट नोट्स लेकर आई हूँ। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 हमारे पास गिवन है चैबीज चर्व्स इनइक्वलिटी। इफ एक्स इज रैंडम वेरिएबल हैविंग मीन एंड वेरिएंस, k is any positive constant, then the probability of value x falls within the k standard deviation of that mean is at least, then it is called Chebyshev inequality. नेक्स्ट है कॉन्टीन्यूस रैंडम वेरिएबल। अब ये क्या होता है? कॉन्टीन्यूस वेरिएबल एक्स इज डिफाइंड टू बी कॉन्टीन्यूस इफ इट कैन एज्यूम एवरी पॉसिबल वैल्यू इन इंटरवल वेयर ए बी मे बी माइनस इन्फिनिटी टू पॉजिटिव इन्फिनिटी रिस्पेक्टिवली। ज्वाइंट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन क्या होता है? द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ टू और मोर रैंडम वेरिएबल्स विच आर ऑब्जर्व्ड सिमल्टेनियसली व्हेन एन एक्सपेरिमेंट इज परफॉर्म्ड इज कॉल्ड ज्वाइंट वेरिएबल। बाइवेरिएट प्रोबेबिलिटी फंक्शन क्या होता है? द ज्वाइंट और बाइवेरिएट प्रोबेबिलिटी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ ऑल पेयर्स ऑफ वैल्यूज एक्स आई वाई जे। marginal probability function, the points to be understood here is that from the joint probability function for x5 we can obtain the individual probability function of x and y. Such individual probability function are called marginal probability function. Conditional probability function क्या होता है? Let x and y be two discrete RVs with joint probability function of fxy, then the conditional probability function of for x given x y is equal to y denoted as f of x by y. Independence क्या होता है? Two discrete x and y are said to be statistically independent if and only if for all possible pair of values the joint probability function can be expressed as the product of two marginal probability functions. Covariance of two random variables. The covariance of two random variables x and y is numerical measure of the content to which their values tend to increase or decrease together. Binomial distribution क्या होता है? The binomial distribution is very important discrete probability function distribution. It was discovered by James Bernoulli about the year 1700. Properties of a binomial experiment. Every trial result in a success or failure. The successive trials are independent. The probability of success P remains constant for the trial to trial. The number of trials N is fixed in advance. Binomial probability distribution क्या होता है? A probability distribution showing the probability of x success in n trials of binomial experiment. Next है binomial probability function. The function used to compute probabilities in a binomial experiment is called binomial probability function. Binomial experiment क्या होता है? A probability experiment having the following of four properties consist of an identical trials. Two outcomes are possible on the each trial. The probability of success does not change from trial to trial and the trial are independent. Next properties of a binomial experiment. यहाँ पे इसकी प्रॉपर्टीज़ गिवन है, आपने इसे अच्छे से रीड कर लेना है. नेक्स्ट है हाइपर जियोमेट्रिक प्रोबेबिलिटी फंक्शन. द फंक्शन यूज टू कंप्यूट द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ एक्स सक्सेस इन एन ट्रायल्स व्हेन द ट्रायल्स आर इंडिपेंडेंट. नेक्स्ट है प्रॉपर्टीज़ ऑफ हाइपर जियोमेट्रिक एक्सपेरिमेंट. द आउटकम ऑफ ईच ट्रायल मे बी क्लासिफाइड इनटू टू कैटेगरीज सक्सेस एंड फेलियर. नेक्स्ट है नंबर 2 पे द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ सक्सेस चेंज ऑन ईच ट्रायल. द सक्सेस ट्रायल आर नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट. द एक्सपेरिमेंट इज repeated a fixed number of times. Hypergeometric distribution. There are many experiments in which the condition of independence is violated and the probability of success does not remain constant for all the trials. Such experiments are called hypergeometric experiment. Next अब इसकी properties given है, ये आपने अच्छे से read कर लेनी है. Next है Poisson probability function. The function used to compute Poisson probability is called Poisson probability function. Properties of Poisson distribution. ये यहाँ पे इसकी given है properties. Poisson process क्या होता है? It may be defined as physical process governed at least in part by some random mechanism. Normal distribution. A continuous random variable is said to normally distributed with the mean and standard deviation of its probability density function is given by formula of normal distribution. The standard normal distribution क्या होता है? A normal distribution whose mean is 0 and whose standard deviation is 1. The process of standardization. In other words, the standardization formula convert our normal distribution to one whose mean is 0, whose standard deviation is equal to 1. Next है sampling distribution. The probability distribution of any statistics is known as sampling distribution. Central limit theorem क्या होता है? ये आप अच्छे से रीड कर लेना, बहुत important question है. Sampling distribution of the sample proportion. In this regard, the first point to be noted is that whenever the elements of our population can be classified into two categories, technically called success and failure, we may be interested in the proportion of success in the population. Point estimation क्या होता है? Point estimation of a population parameter provides as an entire a single value calculated from the sample that is likely to be close in magnitude to the unknown parameter. Biasedness. An estimator is defined to be unbiased if the statistic used as an estimator has its expected value equal to the true value of the population parameter being estimated. Consistency क्या होता है? An estimator is said to be a consistent estimator of the parameter theta cap if for any arbitrarily small positive and quantity e. Efficiency. An unbiased estimator is defined to be efficient if the variance of its sampling distribution is smaller than the sampling distribution of the other unbiased estimator of the same parameter. Methods of point estimation. Method of moments, method of least square, method of maximum likelihood. These methods give an estimate which may differ as the methods are based on different theories of estimation. The method of least squares. The method of least square, which is due to Gauss and Markov, is based on the theory of linear estimation. It is regarded as one of the important methods of point estimation. Method of maximum likelihood क्या होता है? The method was introduced in 1922 by Sir Ronald A. Fisher. The mathematical technique of finding maximum likelihood estimator is a bit advanced and involves the concept of likelihood function. Hypothesis testing. In this, it is a procedure which enable us to decide on the basis of information obtained from sample data whether to accept or reject statement. Null hypothesis. A null hypothesis is generally denoted by the symbol H0. H0 is any hypothesis which is to be tested for possible rejection or nullification under the assumption it is true. Alternative hypothesis क्या होता है? An alternative hypothesis is any other hypothesis which we are willing to accept when the null hypothesis H0 is rejected. Type 1 and type 2 errors. On the basis of sample information, we may reject null hypothesis when it is in fact true, or we may accept or null hypothesis when it is actually false. Test statistic. A statistic which provide a basic for testing a null hypothesis is called test statistic. Properties given है t distribution की. T distribution is bell shaped and symmetric about the value t is equal to 0 and from range -infinity to +infinity. The number of degree of freedom determine the shape of the t distribution. Property of f distribution क्या होता है? The f distribution is a continuous distribution ranging from 0 to +infinity. The curve of the f distribution is positively skewed. Analysis of variance. It is procedure which enable us to test the hypothesis of equality of several population means. Environmental design. By an experimental design, we mean a plan used to collect the data relevant to the problem under study in such a way as provide a basic for valid and objective inference about the stated problem. Systematic and randomized design. In this course, we will discuss only the randomized design, and in this regard, it should be noted that for randomized design, the analysis of the collected data is carried out through the technique known as analysis of variance. The completely randomized design. A completely randomized design, which is the simplest type of the basic design, may be defined as a design in which the treatments are assigned to experiment unit completely at random. The randomization is done without any restrictions. The randomized complete block design. अब complete block design क्या होता है? Is the one in which the experiment material is divided into groups or blocks in such a manner that the experiment unit within a particular block are relatively homogeneous. Each block contains a complete set of treatment. The treatments are allocated at random to the experiment unit within each block. Linear scale method क्या होता है? The method used to develop the estimated regression equation. It minimizes the sum of scared residual. Level of significance. Level of significance of a test is the probability used as a standard for rejecting null hypothesis H0 when H0 is assumed to be true. The least significant difference test. According to this procedure, we compute the smallest difference that would be judged significant and compare the absolute value of all differences of mean within it. Properties of the CHI square distribution has the following properties. It is continuous distribution ranging from 0 to plus infinity. The number of degree of freedom determine the shape of chi-square. नेक्स्ट इसके assumptions हैं. डिग्री ऑफ फ्रीडम है, पी वैल्यू गिवन है हमारे पास, लेटेस्ट स्टेटिस्टिकल डेफिनेशन गिवन है. नेक्स्ट है व्हाट इज़ मीन बाय ए ट्रू 0.2 रेशियो स्केल. नेक्स्ट है व्हाट आर फ्रैक्टल्स, what the effect will occur the result of mean, median, mode, variance and standard deviation if we add or subtract a number from data. Next question है what is particular importance of median, quartile or in which cases these commodities are used. What is the importance of relation between arithmetic, geometric and harmonic. ये most important questions है, बार बार repeat हो रहे हैं. State what is grouped and row data. How will decide number of classes and class interval for the given data. Define the mean deviation. What is mean by variability. What is equally likely events. What is difference between dependent and independent event. Explain the conditional probability. What is the difference between mutually exclusive events and exhaustive events with the help of an example. Next question हमारे पास given है. Explain the concept of central limit theorem. Explain p-value. What is difference between average and central tendency. What is the coefficient of variation. Define mean deviation for median. Which line is best fitted line. How we can judge. What are covariance and correlation. ये हमारे पास मोस्ट रिपीटेड क्वेश्चंस हैं. इसके अलावा मैंने आपको करंट पेपर्स भी अपलोड कर रखे हैं. आप वहाँ से जाकर करंट पेपर्स के हवाले देखकर आप इधर से क्वेश्चन प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं. ओके, अल्लाह हाफिज़.